Sometimes when things go wrong, you can't blame life. Cause when you shot your shot, what was your aim like? What were you targeting? Cause if it ain't right, and you still go with it, then that is on you. It's on you, it's on you, it's on you.
What's going on, you guys? This is Romi and Sam, and you are listening to the Mindset Rebooted podcast.
And if you are a first-time listener, thank you so much for stopping by. Here on the Mindset Rebooted podcast, we like to have conversations that help us to elevate the way we think. And what that means is that we have old ways of thinking that have held us back in the past, and we like to take on new ways of thinking that help us to maximize our full potential and to become the best versions of ourselves.
So if you get any value from this episode today, please share it with one person so we can help even more people.
Today, we're going to be talking about meeting people where they are at. All of us, we have different life experiences. We have different likes, dislikes, interests, and all those different things. And a lot of times when we pair up with other individuals to make certain things happen, there's a clash, or maybe one person's giving it their all, maybe another person's not. And sometimes we feel frustrated because we're not getting the most out of that relationship or whatever it is that we're engaging in, and we like to get mad and blame the other individual. But we need to actually take the time and recognize, is it really that this person doesn't have the skill? Is it really that this person doesn't have
the will? I have to rhyme with that. Yeah, I got it in.
I love it. I love it. No, that's perfect. That's perfect. And
I got him derailed. I'm keeping this, by the way.
No, this should definitely be in there, like 100%. And where was I going with it? Oh, where I was going with it is that a lot of times, because we're not getting out of, man, you messed me up so bad.
Take a breather.
I'm gonna take a breather.
Okay.
Listen.
Take a breather real quick.
Point is this. It's easy to blame others for things not going right. It's easy to get upset. But if we take the time to understand where we are at, right, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, life experience-wise, and where they are at, we would then come to a fundamental understanding that sometimes it's not that the person is lazy or doesn't have the skill
or the will.
It's because they are in a different space than you. And so you have to come to the table and agree that either y'all are going to be able to make things work by appreciating where each other are at, or you have to say, okay, at this time, like maybe this is not what I should be pursuing because we're in two different spaces, and be okay with it. It's not, you shouldn't be angry with someone. You should really just be understanding of, we're just in two different spaces. How can we now move forward? Getting into problem solving mode rather than just blaming and complaining.
Yeah, and a great story I have about this same topic is, so a few years ago, I was actually in a leadership position at Target. We all know the retail chain brand, right? It's lots of people working there. And I was working with this individual who always came late to work. She would always be 5, maybe 15 minutes late, but she was one of my best performing workers.
Wow.
Meaning that she had a lot of good sales, she got people to sign up for memberships or credit cards, whatever have you that Target was invested in at that time. And my leadership would get on her like, hey, why are you always late? This is, if it keeps happening, it's gonna be grounds for dismissal. But in my mind, her performance exceeded her being tardy. And I noticed that whenever we talked about her tardiness, she wouldn't really respond that well to it. Because she's like, hey, I'm here, I'm doing my job, you can rely on me.
Right.
And so I started saying like, hey, is there any reason why you're always late? What's going on? Because I know you want to work here. You have the will to be here. I know that you have the skill because you're obviously one of our best employees. What's going on? And that's where I met her where she's at. And she explained to me she's a single mother. She's a young mother. She has challenges with finding, someone to watch her child while she comes to work. And that conversation there grew a stronger bond between me and her. And that stronger bond there also translated to my relationship with the other staff I had who were also single parents, or maybe not single parents, but they were young parents who were still struggling or figuring out how to take care of their child and still come to work. Because they have the will. They want to make money to take care of their family.
Yep.
They have the skill. They know how to sell. They know how to sign people up for memberships. It was just the communication where leadership didn't understand that they're people.
Yeah.
And so by having that conversation, I grew a stronger bond with the team, and we were able to figure out other ways. Like, okay, so I don't want us to be late all the time, but if you are going to be late, can we put these, SOPs in place? Shoot me a message ahead of time. Like, obviously things are last minute, but shoot me a message as soon as you find out, right? Don't shoot me a message 10 minutes right before you come, right before you're supposed to report to work, when you found out an hour ago that you're gonna have a hard time finding someone.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I do believe in let's be as positive as possible, that you could find someone last minute so you could be on time. But I'm also realistic that it's gonna be a challenge. So just give me a heads up, hey, you're trying to find someone to watch your child while you come to work, and that give me a heads up when you find a solution to it so I could know when to expect it to come.
That's a good point. Question for you, what did that result in? Did her tardiness kind of change, or was she still tardy but you kind of just worked with it?
So it would go in phases. So it would, those conversations, there would be an immediate improvement on attendance.
Gotcha.
With anyone who I spoke with when I, met them at their place. And then eventually things kind of get a little bit more loose because we got relaxed. So I have to remind them again, hey, there's a job here. This is why we pay you, yada, 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 yada. So there's a constant reminding of what's expected, but it's also not coming in with the hammer immediately, but understanding we want you to be here. You're a great performer. Hey, you need to meet us halfway.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I think one of the reasons why it's super hard for us to meet people where they're at is because either A, we have never actually walked in their shoes, right?
Yes.
Or B, we have walked in their shoes, but it was so long ago that we have memory loss. We're we're in a different place that we're just thinking about where we're currently at and how things are supposed to go in accordance with how we live. But if we actually take the time to reflect, okay, I do remember when I actually was in that same position, I think that also does help. But let's talk about, for example, when you're in the situation where you've never walked in that person's shoes, doing what you did is super effective because now I can be more empathetic, right? I don't have to have gone through the exact same thing, but by me being understanding and willing to listen, I can comprehend how this is affecting me or you, and I can, put certain things in place. But meeting people where they're at, that's not an easy task. It's going to take practice. All right. So that's the other part that I think people need to be realistic about. It doesn't necessarily happen overnight. We all have our habits. But if you can make a conscious choice, kind of like with the Target situation, you said, hey, we were too lax. And so we ended up saying, hey, you know what? We got to get back to it. That's some of the things that you have to do when you're trying to meet people at. You have to be actively engaged in doing it.
You have to be actively engaged, and it was a hard like you said, you have to actively try and meet them where they're at. Because I was trying to meet them at first. I was like, hey, we all have a job. You should be here when we got to be here, right? That's where I was coming from. But I forgot, hey, a lot of us are also high schoolers or recent graduates from college. So we don't necessarily, a lot of us didn't have to worry about having children yet, right? Or a lot of us didn't have to necessarily worry about other family situations, because coming from me, I'm single, young male who had no children, no significant other at that time. I didn't have any of those worries. So even though I was trying to meet her at where she was at, it took a couple attempts to finally, oh crap, it's so obvious. You're a mother.
Right.
You're a mother with a young child. It seems so obvious, but I didn't see it at that time.
Yeah, and the other thing about it is you have the opportunity to mentor someone and nurture relationships. That goes such a long way when you meet somebody where they're at. Because remember, you might be in a situation where you need to be, in fact, I know all of us have been in a situation, whether we've recognized it or not, where someone was being patient and kind to us when we just didn't have it all together, even if they didn't say it to us. And so you need to pay that forward to another person. But if you're in an organization, by meeting one individual where they're at and by kind of helping to mentor them, you're also, you're fostering a culture that is, what's the word? It's just such a good culture. I just use good very loosely because my thoughts weren't there, but the culture aspect, that is super important, because if I have a toxic culture, then I'll never be able to achieve as an organization everything that we've envisioned. But when I have everybody who feels like their needs are being met and feels like they're a valued member of the team, we're gonna go like so much further, because everyone's creative juices are flowing. Everyone feels like they've bought into the vision, and they just wanna be there and contribute. So meeting someone where they're at is a real key contributor to that.
Yeah, and I wanna add on to that. So after having those conversations, obviously she's a great performer, in terms of membership sales and signups and stuff like that, but all the other stuff also increased. So because she knew that we wanted her there, she knew that we appreciated her there and that we were willing to work with her, she went out of her way to initiate, when she had free time, initiate more work, initiate more productivity for us. And so that's a clear benefit of meeting someone where they're at. Now, if I flip that, like when you mentioned some people are showing you kindness when you're dropping the ball.
Yeah.
I've been there. It's been so bad. And I know I remember I was a student supervisor for group fitness at my school, and I was dropping the ball. Like, I was missing deadlines. I was showing up late to meetings. And the thing is, when you know you're messing up and you feel the guilt, not even a shame, because shame is people making you feel bad. Guilt is where you feel bad about yourself.
Yeah.
And I was feeling that because I was like, man, I suck right now. And then I told my boss, like, hey, I need, you can I talk to you real quick? Coming in all kind of weak because you feel bad. And you're like, I'm so sorry I'm doing like this. And then my supervisor at that time, she was like, hey, I get it. Like, you have a lot going on.
Wow.
Just communicate with me so I could help fill in the gaps where you need help in.
Wow.
And that right there, she earned my trust so much more. Because, when we're working with a supervisor, usually we just, hey, I need you to do this, and that's it, right? But that interaction created that, okay, you see me as a person.
As a person, yeah.
You see me as not just a cog in the wheel, right? And that made me want to do better for her.
Yeah, I mean, those are some of the key benefits to meeting someone where they're at, right? We talked about being able to build trust, being able to mentor someone, being able to create an environment where everyone feels included and feels respected, so where they go the extra mile. Mm-hmm. We also talked about reflecting on how someone has done the same thing for you and you're paying it.
Can I cut in real quick?
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like you're about to wrap up.
Oh, yeah.
Before that wrap up, I also want to say, even though they met me where I was at, or I met the employees where they were at, there was that love, right? We also had to communicate, this is the negative repercussions if we don't see an improvement as well. There's an accountability.
Yeah.
So when you were doing your wrap up, I was like, oh wait, let's make sure that we remind people. There's no like, hey, laissez-faire.
True.
We're always gonna give you a second, third, fourth, fifth chances. We are gonna give you your chances. We are gonna meet them where they're at so they could improve. We also establish expectations where both tables could agree to it and try and work towards that goal.
That is a good point. There's always a consequence for your actions.
Yep.
There it is. We know you got great value out of this content. Please continue to tune in. Till next time, Mindset Rebooted.
Sometimes when things go wrong, you can't blame life. Cause when you shot your shot, what was your aim like? What were you targeting? Cause if it ain't right, and you still go with it, then that is on you.